Hey everyone, welcome back. Before I jump in to what I want to jump in on, I want to remind you again, if you have not liked, shared, subscribed to this channel, please do so. We have a lot of good, juicy stuff that I want to roll out that's on my heart. Ironically, the reason why I jumped on here today, kind of impromptu, you see me with my little cap and everything, I had to put it on because my hair is not obeying. I'm having one of those days. But I had to jump on here real quick, and let me tell you why. About 2 days ago, and you might know, and of course, if you were a subscriber, you would know. About 2 days ago, I posted a video that I think was not necessarily seen or heard the way it was meant to. Let me explain what I mean by that. I suddenly got a barrage of DMs and messages, some comments on there, on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, right here on YouTube, and every other different channel. And some of it took a turn for the mean. And so I thought, rather than try and explain or have a conversation individually on some social media platform, I would come on again to once again explain what I was trying to say in the previous video. And if you don't know what the previous video is, the links are on the comment section right beneath us right here. So you can go back to that if you haven't seen it yet. You probably will want to. But I wanted to come on again to explain and clarify my position concerning abuse in the church and what needs to be done. Perceived abuse, real life abuse, hidden abuse, any kind of abuse in any kind of what way. I want to be able to put this video out so you can hear my heart concerning abuse, so that there be no miscommunication, so that there be no misunderstanding. Now, what I said early on about people DMing me, people sending messages and all kinds of communication, the bulk of them understood what I was saying and where I was coming from. There was a group of people that reached out angrily, and well, half of them were angry. The other half were genuinely asking questions, for which I appreciate. I will say that the bulk of people, and notice I didn't say all, I said the bulk of people who did respond with DMs or messages and all the whatnot, the bulk of them were not people who were regularly in my meetings. They were not people who were regular in what I do ministry-wise. They weren't a part of the coaching or mentoring group that I do online. So these were not people who are around me enough to know where I was coming from with what I was saying. Let me be very clear with this again. Let me try to be very clear with this again. You have to understand that before I moved out here stateside, over in Asia, one of the main facets of what I did was that I had a major outreach to women and children who were in all kinds of abusive situations. We're talking sexual abuse, we're talking spousal abuse, we're talking, if you could tag the word abuse on there, spiritual abuse. If you could tag the word abuse on there, I had an active role working, and this is not an exaggeration, with thousands of such individuals and women and children. I say that to say this: I am not blind, ignorant, nor am I one for covering anything up. Abuse is what it is: wrong, sinful, and a stain on the church. The purpose of my posts, my previous posts, and my videos was not to say, hush up if you're being abused. It was not to say, don't say anything, suffer in silence. It wasn't even to say, touch not the Lord's anointed. None of those were in any way, I thought, implied in what I said. And again, hear my heart. I gave you a little bit of my background working with people who have been abused so that you understand where I'm coming from. My heart is for the Church of Jesus Christ. My heart is that God's will in the time that we live in, that I have the privilege of living in and serving in, have full expression. God's will have full expression in my lifetime. My heart has always been, and again, perhaps because of what I've done in the past, I've had more opportunity to help people who have some sort of abuse in their background than the average person. So I'm not blind, in denial, trying to protect a corrupt pulpit. And again, here's why I think a lot of them, the people who seemingly just got upset at the whim of a post, they don't know me enough, because if they did, they would know that when I do preach, I preach hard against a corrupt pulpit. My purpose in the post was that the purposes of God have full expression. Now I want to read to you, and this was before the video came out. This was when I had put out a quote post on Facebook and on Instagram. So it's public. You can see it there. What I'm going to read to you, this response that I posted, and this is before it all blew up, because it was not a video yet. It was just a social media post on Facebook and on Instagram. And of course, if you don't follow me on social media, look for I Am Just James. Now, so this that I'm going to read to you was my written response, and it's still on there now. So it's public, right? It's still on there now. This is pre-YouTube video that caused this uproar. Here's what I said, because someone wrote in, I believe, with a genuine concern about wanting to seek clarification and understanding. And so here's what I said. Again, Facebook post, it's there for everyone to see. Abuse in any form, hear this, abuse in any form is never right and should have no place in the life of believers. No one should suffer in silence. This is what I wrote before the video came out. Testimonies do help, conversations do help, and sometimes confrontations must be had. I'll explain why I said sometimes afterwards. The point of this post, and I'm not talking about the video, I'm talking about the Facebook post. The point of this post is that, like any other organization, there must be order and protocol in addressing wrongs. God has set, only if you believe that God is God of the church, God has set order and fail-safes in His church. His leaders must lead. And let me tell you this. Let me slip in and tell you this right now. The purpose of my post was twofold. Firstly, to say that we ought not be randomly mudslinging. But secondly, it was a call for apostles and prophets to stand up and take their God-given place and address and correct the wrongs that are in church. Why? Because God is a God of order. I went on to say, because this person responded to what I said, and so I responded to her response. I am truly sorry that you had to go through and experience that what was abusive and hurtful. A good portion, and I repeated what I had just told you about what I did over there in Asia. I have seen firsthand the devastation it causes. Ministerially, what I have enforced in these situations, hear me clear now. This is public. I'm posting it right here on Facebook. This is before the video. Ministerially, what I have enforced in these situations is that the offending minister, and this is what I prescribe, that the offending minister be brought before the ministerial board, spiritual leaders, that they are accountable, and to civil authorities when needed. In what way does that sound like I'm telling victims to hush up? See, a lot of the people who got angry at the whim, I suspect that the reason why they left messages on Facebook instead of on YouTube is because they didn't watch the video, which is a problem in our society that ought not be creeping in the church today. We hear a soundbite and make a judgment. How about sit and listen a little bit? I'm going to read this here because this was 2 and 3 days before the video even came out. Again, I have enforced in these situations that the offending minister be brought before the ministerial board, be brought before their spiritual leaders, and when they're accountable, be brought before civil authorities. In other words, get the law involved. For the affected individuals, they should seek help, counsel from trusted pastoral and professional counselors. Again, how does any of that sound like I'm saying hush? Let's protect the pulpit. It does. There is no way, if you were honest, that you could say I was saying that. Listen to this. As I previously stated, I'm repeating myself, abuse is wrong and should have no place in the church. But it does happen. Ta-da! I'm aware of that. But it does happen. The priority of those hurt must be their individual healing and restoration. That's my pastor's heart speaking. Yes, we gotta stop abusive shepherds. But if you were out on the street and you saw some sort of accident and some person was lying on the street bleeding and calling for help and you thought they could save their life, would you abandon that person bleeding on the street to chase after the car that just had hit and run? No, you would take care of the bleeding first so that they quit bleeding and live, and then go after the hit and run guy. That's what I hope you would do. That's what I'm saying. There is procedure. There is order. We have to care for the sheep. But it is not care for the sheep to shove a bleeding sheep out into the open and go and tell the sheep, go ahead, while you're bleeding, while blood splattering everywhere, go ahead, tell us everything we want to know about that person we never liked anyway. Bleeding sheep are in no condition to do that. We gotta help the sheep. Now, what do we do about those wolf shepherds? I just told you. You heard me say it. Bring in their spiritual leadership. Bring in those they're accountable to. Bring in civil authorities if need be. Why? Because those are in a position to do something. They are in a position to stop them. They are in a position to correct them. They are in a position to make them sit down if need be. And now, I can even hear some of you say, wait, you don't understand. They've surrounded their board. They've surrounded themselves with others who are of like-minded perverseness, and they won't stop them. I got it. I've handled those situations too. That's when you go to the greater body of leadership and elders. And again, I'm not trying to make a class divide between us high and mighty ministers and all these other sheep. And us high and mighty ministers get to correct ministers and no one else does. That's not the point. That's not the point. Imagine with me, if you will. You're walking down the street. I'm using everyday examples. And a guy comes running out of a store. The store owner comes running out behind him and says, Stop him! He just robbed me!" And he's running right by you, so you grab a hold of the guy. You grab a hold of him. You caught him red-handed. You're the hero of the day. You caught him red-handed. You caught him with cash in his fist, running out of the store. Question: do you go on then and take that opportunity, since you already grabbed him, to just beat the living daylights out of him to teach him a lesson? Or do you call the police so the police can come and do what they need to do? You see, you know that the right answer would be to call the police. Because once we turn everything over to mob rule, what we will have is mob rule. And two wrongs don't make a right. Now, even now, I can hear some people, I read somewhere about some father who walked across their kid being molested, and the father just beat the tar out of that person. That was, can I tell you this? Can I tell you this between you and me? I'm glad he walked in, and I'm glad he beat the tar out of that guy. I don't quote me on this. But that's not the common everyday response to situations like that. You know this and I know this. You know this and I know this. We call the police. We stop the guy, but we call the police. And then we say, now the police handle it. And that's where I was coming from with my post. Should those who are abused suffer in silence? Of course not. That's ridiculous to even think that. You obviously haven't heard the videos. You haven't heard the post. You haven't heard anything. You just wanted to rush. Make a decision real quick and a post. You say, wait, you sound angry. No, I'm not angry. But I love the Church of Jesus Christ enough to say we got to wise up. Does God have means and methods of how He handles things? Yes. And it falls on us to obey Him how He wants to run the church. Timothy, 1 Timothy 5 tells us, right here in 1 Timothy 5 and 20 tells us, those who are sinning rebuke in the presence of all. I agree. I agree that those who are sinning need to be rebuked in the presence of all. But can we put it in context of 1 Timothy 5:20? In 1 Timothy 5:20, Paul was writing to Timothy to rebuke those in his flock that he had oversight over, that he was to rebuke them. Paul wasn't giving a license for everyone in church to be rebuking everyone that they thought was sinning. So actually, 1 Timothy 5:20 proves my point. Bring leadership in. Bring elders into the picture. Have them do their job. My heart for the abused, my heart for the church, it's not that they, quote unquote, suffer in silence, quote unquote, not touch the Lord's anointed, which, by the way, again, was not even a phrase that was in any of my posts. My heart was that, like with everything else as a believer, we do what we do God's way. Do we trust that God has apostles and prophets and evangelists and pastors and teachers in this land for this day that are supposed to have a hand in governance, that are supposed to have a hand in guarding and protecting and nurturing the flock? Yes, I believe that with all of my heart. Do I believe that believers have a right to speak up? Yes, with all of my heart. But I'll tell you this, when you pit a wounded sheep over a deceptive shepherd, it's the sheep that's going to lose out. I say this with love in my heart, but some of the messages and some of the posts, or the response to those posts that I made, replies to the posts, I don't doubt that a lot of those people who said what they said had some sort of abuse. And for that, my heart cries. But pastorally, I can tell you, you could hear the bleeding. You could hear the pain. You could hear that leaking and bleeding into bitterness. And again, two wrongs don't make a right. If you've been abused, if you've come out of a situation that was abusive, have hope, have faith. God has people, can send people, will send people into your life that can help heal you and bind up the wounds and restore you. What about those that did that to me? Have hope, have faith. God in His mercy is not blind. God in His justice is not blind. He knows what He's doing. That doesn't mean we do nothing, but it does mean we do what we do His way. I love you guys. You all may not believe that. I am your brother. Some of you may question that, but I am still just James. I love you all. Let me hear from you. Comment here on YouTube if you have watched the video, and everywhere else, so that we can have us as much of a conversation as we can. I trust you understand my heart.